To make this, you're going to need salt, bread flour, and pastry flour, and some milk that gets just lukewarm. And you're going to need yeast and salt, and those are the two flours. I'm going to sift everything together except for the yeast. The recipe also called for something called castor sugar, which is regular sugar that's finer, but not as fine as powdered sugar. So I just took the sugar and put it in a little hand grinder, and I believe that's going to be the consistency required for this. I sifted the pastry flour and the bread flour together, and then I'm going to sift them again and sift the salt into the mixture. The difference between the pastry flour and the bread flour is that the bread flour has a higher protein content, which helps as far as creating the gluten in this recipe. Obviously, this is not a gluten-free recipe. But that said, that's why the recipe is calling for both a pastry flour and a bread flour. And now I'm just stirring in the sugar. Next, creaming the yeast with 3 tablespoons of milk, and then I'm going to put this into that pot and continue blending it and mixing it till the yeast dissolves. And beat the egg up. I've poured in the yeast mixture and the egg mixture into a little bowl in the center of the flour, and I'll be stirring this for quite some time. See you in a few minutes. I've been kneading it for about 3 minutes, and it is bouncing back a little bit, so it's time to put it into a lightly oiled bowl and just leave it alone for about 45 minutes to an hour until it gets big. I punched the dough down and reformed it. It's going to go back in this bag, and now it's going to go and chill in the refrigerator for about an hour. Okay, y'all, now we get to the fun part. What makes croissants so amazing is the butter, and the butter gets separated between layers of the flaky dough, but it's the butter that makes the dough flaky. So the first thing I'm doing is rolling this out, and I'm not going to bore you with this part. I'm going to keep rolling, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. So I took the first stick of butter and I mashed it flat, and now I'm going to seal it in here and seal up the edges, seal up the ends, flip it over. This is the tricky part. It's got to get rolled out as big as it just was. I have to roll it out that flat again. So again, I'm not going to bore you with this part. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back with the second slab of butter, and this is unsalted, by the way, in case y'all were wondering that part. So again, seal everything up in here, and I'm going to roll this out a second time. Hopefully I got the ends sealed. Then, believe it or not, this thing is going back in the refrigerator to chill for about another hour. So I'm going to keep rolling, flatten it out, and then I'll show you. Hold on. Okay, so I've already done this once, but I'm going to do it again. I'm folding it in half and then rolling it out flat again. And after this, I will fold it up and put it in the refrigerator to chill for an hour. Show you in a second. Okay, so now I'm just going to fold it again in thirds, put it back in the plastic bag and back into the refrigerator, and I'll see y'all in an hour. So the magic of the internet, an hour has gone by, and I'm going to start rolling this out again. And I will not bore you with this part, but I'll bring you back in just a few moments when I get this flattened out. Okay, so I've flattened it out again, and once again, I'm gonna make a little accordion. I will flatten this out. I'll be back in a moment. At this point, the butter is somewhat poking through or seeping out, so every so often I'm just dusting it with flour, just so you know that part of this. Okay, so one more time, just gonna fold it up, and yeah, some of the bigger pieces are wanting to flake off already. Okay, this is going back in the refrigerator, and I'll see y'all in an hour. In between, I'm just clearing the pastry board of anything that's stuck on here, and also the rolling pin, so when I come back to do the next rollout, I'll have fresh flour on there and there won't be any sticking. Okay, so it's been an hour, and I'll do that here, and I'm gonna once again roll this out, and I will not bore you with that part, but you'll see me in just a moment with a flat piece of dough. Okay, so at this point, there's options. I can go ahead and make the croissants and I can bake them now. Or I can make the croissants and I can freeze them unbaked on cookie sheets and then store them in bags or container in the freezer. And then when I'm wanting a fresh croissant without all this whole day's project interspersed with other things I was doing, I can take the frozen croissant out, let it thaw overnight in the fridge, and then wipe it with an egg wash once it's thawed and bake it the same way that I will bake the ones that I'm going to bake now. Alternately, I can bake them and freeze them individually and then wrap them up in really tight in saran wrap or some kind of plastic wrap, and then take those individually baked, wrapped, frozen croissants, put them wrapped again into a freezer bag, remove all the air, and then I can freeze them. And then again, the same thing, take one or two out, whatever I'm needing, thaw it overnight in the fridge, wrap it in tin foil or aluminum, and then put it in a cooler oven, only 200, to just basically reheat it. Now, whether I do baked croissants frozen and reheat them, or frozen croissants unbaked and bake them, that's a one-time thing. You cannot refreeze them after they've been baked that second time. Okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make some croissants. So I'm just using my plastic scraper because I do not want to injure this pastry board with a sharp knife. It's not a good thing to have happen to it. And then I'm going to cut them across this way. Some will be a little bit smaller, some will be a little bit bigger, but basically you're seeing what's going on. Cut them into triangles, and obviously the ones in the middle row are always pretty nice looking compared to the ones on the edge. And if any of you bakers out there have an idea as to, you know, better ways to do this, please share in the comments. It's not quite square, but it's close. Okay, so now each croissant is going to get rolled up, tuck the little pointy end underneath, make it into the nice little shape, and set it on the cookie tray. And these are going to go back, believe it or not, they go back in the refrigerator one more time while the oven is being preheated to 400 degrees. So I'm going to just keep going on this, and then some of these I am going to go ahead and freeze and save for later events. So I'm going to just keep going on this so you won't be bored, and I'll be back in a minute. So these I put on a plastic plate. I'm going to go ahead and freeze these to save for later, and the other ones are in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes whilst the oven heats up. So I just made a little egg wash with an egg yolk and some milk, and this is the last one. I'm just brushing this on. Careful not to get it on the cut edges of the croissants, or it will seal them. It will prevent them from opening up and getting all poofy. Now this needs to just stay warm for just about 30 minutes, and so that these can rise, and then they're going in the oven. Well, if you could smell how good it is in here, you would want some of this, I have no doubt. They just came out of the oven, so they need to cool down just a little bit, but they look good. I think next time I might make fewer of them and make them somewhat bigger, but I'm gonna have to taste one and find out if it's any good. Hold on. Okay, so get this in focus here. And I apologize about the blurriness. I didn't realize earlier that the camera was focused on the edge of this bench and not on the table. So they look pretty flaky. I'll have a bite. It was worth it. It was definitely worth all the work. All right. See you in the next video. I hope your day is going great. Till then. And I'm guessing, I mean, I could have probably folded it and rolled it a bunch more times. The more times it gets folded and re-rolled, the more flakiness there is. Also, previously when I had made these, I just used the bread flour. I did not use the pastry flour, and I don't know if that has made a difference, because the last time I did it, I'm remembering them coming up a little bit higher. So that's lots of variables. But anyway, I am super happy that I did this. I wish y'all were here to have a bite. Later. Good morning. Breakfast, coffee, orange, and a fresh croissant that I made yesterday. See y'all in the next video. Blessings.